Hey guys, as I was thinking about making this video, I started to think to myself, I need a selfie stick to do this right. But I had to stop myself mid-thought. I said, you are not a dork. You're not having a selfie stick. Now, if you're a selfie stick person, great for you. You can go ahead and take all the selfie things with your selfie stick thing that you want, but it's not me. And so you're gonna have to deal with a wiggly camera because I'm not going there. But this morning, as I was running, I just kind of had some worship music on and I asked God, what is it that you want to say today? What is your word for today? What is it that we can meditate that comes directly from you? And he said, stop and admire the beauty. So I stopped to look around, and it's kind of humid. It's not exactly a sunrise. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun was already high in the sky, and it was getting hot. And I just ran through a patch of stickers, and the asphalt is in front of me. And I said, God, you got to show it to me a little bit more clear than that, because I don't see what you're wanting me to stop and dwell on. And so he showed me this picture of these lungs just expanding and this air coming in, and you know that little air swirl that we get the picture of. That's what he was showing me. Now I know that's not the way lungs work, but that's what he showed me. And then he showed me a heart, and it was beating together. The chambers were contracting and opening, and you could see all the intricacies of it. You could see the valves opening and closing, the blood rushing in and rushing out. And then he showed me a set of legs running in cadence together. And they were my legs. And I knew they were my legs because I could see the scar on my knee where I had my knee surgery. I tore it up pretty bad a couple years ago, and up until about even this February, it didn't work right. Every time I'd go for a run, my right one would do all of the work, and the left one was just kind of along for the ride. It wouldn't do anything. But since February, God's been restoring that, and he's been strengthening that knee and that leg, and it's starting to work together, and it's getting stronger, and it's something that only he can do. And so he showed me that, and then I looked at my shadow, and he said, that's the beauty that I want you to stop and admire. When we start to think about God's creation and admiring his creation and his beauty, we start to look towards nature, because oftentimes we look at ourselves and we don't think ourselves as beautiful most of the time. A lot of the time we stop and we think about all of the things that we compare ourselves to, and all the ways that we think we fall short. We start to think about all the things that people say about us, or even the things we think they say about us that they never will, and we start to convince ourselves that that's who we are. And that's not who God says we are. God says that before we were born, he knew us. He says that he wove us, made us in our mother's womb, that he took every synapse of our body and he wove it together to create this thing. He says he's the potter and we're the clay, and he forms us. He molds us just the way he wants us, and then he calls us his masterpiece. He calls us good. But we don't oftentimes think of ourselves as good. We oftentimes allow this lie to sink in and become ingrained in who we are, that we're not good, that we fall short, that we don't have the physical abilities we want. We don't have the mental abilities we want. We don't have the spiritual life that somebody else has. It's not the one we want. And so instead of focusing on the fact that God created us, that God made us good, that he makes us beautiful, we believe this lie that we're not any of those things. And so today I want you to just stop and ask yourself, when was the last time you called yourself beautiful? When was the last time you called yourself good? When was the last time you got out of that mindset of comparison, that mindset of I fall short? And just stop and realize that God, when he formed man, he picked us up out of the dirt, and he gently molded us together, and he breathed his life into us. We're the only creatures that he says that about. And then he says that he called us good, very good. And he says what he calls good, let no man call bad. So I just want you to think about that today and remind yourself that you are God's masterpiece, that you are good, that you are beautiful, that you are what God admires, of everything that he created, of the mountains, of the big red cedar forests, of these beautiful lakes, these beautiful oceans. You are what God admires the most. As I was worshiping on my run, the last song I was listening to, it said, said it's your breath in our lungs, and we pour out our praise to you. And so I want you to think about that this morning, about taking the breath that he's placed in your lungs and praise God with it by admiring what he calls good, admiring the beauty that he's placed in you, to let go of all of the lies, to let go of everything that you think is bad about yourself, to let go of all the negative thoughts that you've allowed to sink in and be indwelled within who you think you are. Let them all go today. Meditate on what God says and on who God says you are, because you're good, you're beautiful, you're his masterpiece. Have a blessed day.